Hey, I'm Jared Whitman. I'm here with John Russell. This is The Pursuit of Being a Stand-Up Leader. Each episode, we're breaking down John's book, Be a Stand-Up Leader.
The ABCs of doing things right.
I got crap on my book.
I know, it's starting to remember that.
The ABCs of doing things right, be a stand-up leader. We're breaking down John's book each chapter by chapter, and that's what each episode of this podcast is, where we have a conversation about the podcast from our experiences. And there's usually some gold nuggets that you can pull out of each podcast episode, which is really cool because you get John's experience over 40 years. Long time in the industry, and my experience, younger generation, 10 to 15 years of experience. So it's a really great communication, conversation type of podcast, and it's really fun and exciting. So this episode, we're talking about managers, and I think it's going to be a fun episode.
Have you had any great managers?
I've had some great managers. And
why were they great?
They were great because I felt like I was a person. I felt like they cared about me. I felt like they were invested in my goals, invested in my future, invested in me and my growth. And that was really, there was like one manager that really stands out above the rest.
So do you know what the number one thing is that employees look for in a great manager?
Appreciation?
Recognition. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Just tell me that I'm doing a great job.
Yeah.
Or tell me that I need to improve
in
this area to do better.
Yeah. I want to know. I want to know that I'm doing a good job, or if I'm doing a bad job, what can I do to improve? And that needs to come from the managers. That needs to be a conversation.
I've had the privilege of working with the greatest managers and the worst managers. And it's really distinct.
Yeah.
The difference between people who care about their employees and create that, maybe it's a cliche, but create that family vibe inside the company where you feel like you're part of something special.
Yep.
That's pretty rare.
Yep.
But when I was younger, and my dad was a legendary general manager. He's in the Wisconsin Broadcaster Hall of Fame. I mean, the guy walked on water. I will never be as good as him. But I always wanted to be him. I always wanted to be a manager. Wow, when you're young, it's like, general manager.
Yeah.
That's like the top of the heap, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that right underneath being the president?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Or the owner?
It's pretty far up there, yeah.
Yeah, so, that's when I was young. That's what I always thought people wanted to get to be a manager. You don't want to be a worker.
Right.
You got to be somebody who's in charge of the workers.
Right, yeah.
So mid-level management is the hardest job on the planet.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I have seen it. I've experienced it. And the story is real quick. All the problems from the bottom work up to the middle.
Yep.
You're everybody's solution.
Yep.
When the owner doesn't like what's happening, all the problems from the top and from the president and from the vice president, they all go down to the manager. I don't care if you're a mid-level manager, you're a general manager, you're just a manager.
Yep.
You're screwed.
Yep.
You're caught in the middle. You deal with the fires every day, incoming from customers, incoming from employees, downcoming from the bosses up above. It's horrific. You have to have a real thick skin, and you have to work about 80 hours a week.
Yeah, you got to have some real grit when you're doing...
And to top it off, the salespeople are making more than the managers,
right, yeah.
Which sucks because you're the guy or the girl who's doing all the work. It's unbelievable. I'm like, why would anybody ever want to be in that position? As soon as you're in that position for a while, you're like, how do I get out? Right. I can't escape this. Yeah. I have this glamorous job title, which doesn't mean squat, except for the fact that you have to do everybody's work twice as hard, and everybody's shooting at you all the time.
I think it looks good on the resume. That's about
the only thing good about it is if you win big.
Right.
I mean, it's no question. You take all the credit
Yeah.
if everything goes good.
Yeah. But you're going through a lot of muck.
Every day.
You're trudging
firefighter.
a lot of muck to get to that big
You get
win.
paid to put out the problems.
Yep.
And I explain to people who are in these types of positions that you don't get paid when things are going well.
No.
You get paid when you're putting out the fires, when you're handling all the problems, when you're constantly troubleshooting. That's where you earn your money.
Yep.
And that's not a bad thing. And some people are really good at it. But as you pointed out before, appreciation doesn't come around
Right.
all the time. You know why? Because the managers are under fire.
Yep.
They don't have enough good feelings and positivity flowing through them to walk around and give people a pat on the back and say, I appreciate you because I'm on fire back here.
Right.
I do appreciate you, but I don't have time to tell you.
Right.
Go do your job and don't become part of the problem. Right. Is how it works. Right?
Yeah.
So great managers are really good coaches.
Yes.
Our friend Ed,
Yeah.
he's the guy that made that point clear to me on a couple of occasions. Coaching is different than managing.
Yeah.
And it's a hard line to understand and delineate between the two. But when you're able to coach somebody and lift them up and get them to the point where they're overcoming whatever it is that's holding them back,
Right.
and you can unleash them from that
Yeah.
and have them experience positivity and success, all of a sudden you're a great manager.
Yep.
But you did it through great coaching.
Correct.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Coaching is the technique that you use to bring people out of trouble.
Yep.
And that's why great managers are really the best coaches.
Yeah.
I
love that you associate managers to coaching, because you're basically, if you look at a coach or like a business coach or a life coach, and what they do is they ask questions, they have a vested interest in the person that they're coaching. It really falls on the person that's being coached to do a lot of the work that is needed to make those strategic moves and improvements, but the coach is there to help kind of guide the path a little bit by asking questions, whereas a manager can also be there as a guide to ask the questions, to kind of like help pave that path of like, hey, this is where you're going good, here's where you're going bad, here, let's get you back on the right track. Asking the questions, having a vested interest in their employees' professional growth, because when the employee does well, when the company does well, then everyone does well. So I think there's just a huge opportunity for managers to approach conversations from a coaching standpoint.
Right.
However, having been in situations and working for companies and managers that are taking fire from both ends, it's an incredibly difficult transition to go from like flips that switch from being a manager to being a coach, and then coaching your people. That's why I think like starting from the top down is really important. If you're going to be a stand-up leader, you want to be the stand-up leader of your business and coach down, and then coach your people how to coach their people.
Right.
And that kind of will result in residual paybacks in time,
right,
which is kind of amazing. But it's not an easy road.
Yeah, you were correct. And it's a difficult profession, and managers are generally underpaid for what they do. And I'll just say this, stand-up leaders make sure that the managers that they work with are given all the resources and are communicated with on a regular basis, shown the recognition and appreciation that the manager needs to show the employees.
Yep.
It starts at the top, right?
Yep.
That's what you were just saying.
Yep.
And that's the way it works. If the manager is mentored properly and a stand-up leader is making sure that that manager has what they need to lift up the rest of the staff, you're probably going to be very successful.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so we can get into good managers and bad managers at another time, but the reality is there's a big difference.
Right.
And it's you'll notice right away if they're good or bad by how they treat you in good times and in bad times.
Yeah.
Because even if an employee is having a bad experience and things aren't going well and things aren't clicking, instead of just casting them aside, might be a good time to roll up your sleeves and get to know them a little bit better, find out what's going on, and then give them the coaching that they need to overcome their challenges.
Yeah.
You have anything else?
No, I think, no, we covered it pretty well.
Yeah, management is a tough gig. And I understand why people want to aspire to become a manager. And it's good for experience.
Yes.
Because you can see where the heat comes down.
Yep.
And it's almost an MVP type spot.
Yeah.
If you're really good, you can go a long way with it.
Yeah.
So feel free to strive for a management position, but be ready when you get there. Be some tough sled.
Yeah, it's a battle, that's for sure.
Yeah. So thanks for being with us today. Look forward to seeing you again soon.